Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Cookiecast. Today on Cookiecast, it's the Darkest Timeline podcast, so as I like to say, you're stuck with me for the day. I imagine there'll be some talk about games, movies, and probably the gym. Who knows? So here we go. This is Cookiecast, Darkest Timeline podcast. Right, I've been sitting here for like 5 minutes waiting for the plinky plinky noise, and the plinky plinky noise hasn't happened, so I've started, but basically, you know that means it's going to happen any second. Anyway, let's crack on. Hello, it is I, Cookie. I invite you to join me here on Cookiecast, and it is the Darkest Timeline podcast. I'm your host, Cookie. No guests today. There's a rumour that we're getting a guest at some point. I don't know when that might be. We might have had the guest by the time this goes out, and then the guest will have been on and all of that. Until then, who can say? I am super tired. It has not been a good week. I'm kind of trying to sort, for want of a better way to put it, I'm trying to sort my shit out. Go to bed earlier, get up earlier, get to work earlier, still do everything I need to, go to the gym, things like that. The intention is to keep going to bed earlier, keep getting up earlier. Eventually I'll be able to get up at like ridiculous o'clock in the morning, and potentially do gym on a morning and then go to work. But currently, baby steps, journey of 1,000 miles, starts with one step. I imagine if you were going to travel 1,000 miles, probably wouldn't walk it, but you know. So, been a long week. Recorded a podcast earlier in the week, which will be the last Darkest Timeline podcast before this one, where I was like, right, I'm going to go and have something to eat and come back and record the next one. That was 3 days ago. Again, none of this makes any difference to anybody, because when you get these, they're probably weeks apart. I'm just giving you an insight into the process and my mind and how that works. I currently have 2 drinks on the go, and I've had a third drink. I had some of the mocha cold drink that I mentioned in the last one. I've had to make myself coffee, which I don't normally do on an evening. And I've got a juice, a homemade juice. But by that I mean I put cordial and water in a bottle and put it in the fridge. So yeah, I'm going to have to drink that coffee, otherwise I'll be yawning all the way through this. Not to say that won't happen anyway. So this is still this week's podcast, which is good. So it's still current. And when I say current, it'll be months out of date by the time you guys get it. However, let's crack on rather than me keep banging on about it. So, our theory would have been that this would have been recorded on Monday. So I'd have been like, here's what I did last week. First week of the summer holidays. So, we all went to the Yorkshire Wildlife Park. Me and Leanne and some friends have been before, a few years ago. So we loaded all the girls into the car, me and Leanne as well, and we went off to Yorkshire Wildlife Park. At that point in time, it was the Tuesday of the hottest week on record, and the Tuesday at that point in time was the hottest day ever. Obviously, the Thursday was the hottest day. I'll come to that in a minute. So we went to the Yorkshire Wildlife Park on what was the hottest day ever at that point in time. So absolutely doused everybody in sunscreen, and off we went. By the time we'd left the house, by the time we'd driven from here to there, by the time we got there, by the time we got in, sunscreen, sun hats. We had to buy sun hats when we got there. By the time we got in, it's like, cool, it's lunchtime, pretty much. So we went and found some seats. I think there was like a toilet stop first, then seats. Got in, got seats and stuff. As an aside, there was a strange sort of... Not strange, it's common, but some of it was strange. We were looking for seats, and we wanted seats in the shade so that people could be out of the sun for a little while. Things like that. And our initial... we found a bench... Initially, not in any form of shade. The girls ended up sitting in the shade of the bench, sort of thing. I wasn't bothered. I had my sunscreen on. Good to go, sort of thing. Then we were like, oh, there's a bench that's freed up a bit further in that is in a bit of shade. Let's go over there. Two benches next to each other. One bench had a rucksack on one side on one of the seats. So we were like, well, there's a rucksack there. We won't, I presume that's there for a reason. We don't need to be bothering with it. We don't need to move it or anything. We'll sit on this other bench, this free bench here. So we sat and we were like handing out plates, handing out bread, handing out hummus, chopped veg, picnic stuff. Handing all this food out. We were there probably 5 minutes. And a family turned up and sat on the bench where the rucksack was. It was like, oh, okay, so that's obviously the family that owns the rucksack. Cool. Another 5 minutes passed. There was a bird under the bench. There was stuff about the fact that there was loads of wasps, ice cream equals wasps sort of thing. There was like ice cream on the bench. I kept dropping like little bits of crust under the bench for the bird. I was like, we'll keep the bird here because it'll keep the wasps away. Smart thinking, you see. A good 10 minutes later, there was a woman. So I didn't sit at the bench. I don't get on with benches. I tend to get stuck. So I'll just stand. That way I can sort of like give X child what they need and give other child what they need, and like a floater sort of thing. So we've been there about 15 minutes, and an older woman appeared, seemingly out of nowhere, and was like wandering around the area. Next thing I can hear a woman's voice, not this woman. Oh, no, it's there, Mum, it's there. There. No, there. It's like, what's going on here? Turn around and there's another family on another bench. Or heading towards another bench. It's there, it's over there, it's there. So next thing, the older lady starts picking stuff up off the bench that was next to ours. No, not that one. No, another one, a different one. Eventually grabs hold of this rucksack that had been there all this time. Picks it up and wanders over to this other bench. It's like, what's going on right now? The younger of the women, the mum versus the grandma of this family, then starts going ballistic. Now, bear in mind the timescale we're talking about here. So we've been there 15 minutes. When we got there was 2 empty benches. One had a rucksack on. We left that bench. We sat on the other one. Cool. We sat down. Other family comes 5 minutes later. They sit at the bench that's got the rucksack on. Cool. 10 minutes later, Somebody comes and picks the rucksack up, and like I say, this woman is going ballistic. Can't believe they've done that. Can't believe they've done that. That seat was reserved. That bag was there. Shortest version is that at some point, this family has come and put a rucksack on a bench and then has wandered off for 15 minutes and apparently expected to come back on what was a busy day and the bench would somehow magically be reserved. This woman was going mental. And then the best bit of all, proceeded to sit and stare daggers at this family for the rest of the time. It was most uncomfortable. I mean, we just sort of got on and went about our lunch and sort of finished up and moved on. But this woman was not impressed. What then made it even, I don't know, weirder, more uncomfortable, whatever was, for the rest of the day, just kept seeing this family. Everywhere we went, just kept seeing this family. And it was like the woman was still pissed off. It was a bizarre situation. But yeah, that was just an aside. So we had our picnic, and we set off to go and look at the animals. So took some pictures, which if I have the time and the patience, I might transfer to this podcast. So, I've got a picture of a little bird that was on the same. So we saw some baboons. That was cool. We saw some lemurs. That was good. Polar bears. Like these massive rabbit things, like giant rabbits. We stopped and we had an ice cream. Like I say, at this point in time, hottest day ever. Saw the giraffes again. And that was about it. We had another ice cream before we left. However, note to self, and to you the avid listener. Yorkshire Wildlife Park, been before, great time, get to see the animals, cool. I'm always a bit mixed about this sort of stuff because I'm kind of like these animals should be in the wild, they should be roaming free in the wild and things like that. But one of the exhibits was like, there's 35 of these animals left in extinction, in existence. And it was sort of saying if there hadn't been an intervention, these animals would have been extinct long ago. So I'm like, well, is that kind of, are they supposed to have gone extinct? Or is it us that has caused that, or what? So I'm a bit, I don't know how I feel about these places. I like going to see the animals. But yeah, I probably don't agree that they should be in captivity. So that's kind of that. Yorkshire Wildlife Park, hottest day on record at this point in time. Yeah, the animals were like, I'm staying in bed today, mate. So the number of exhibits that we went to where there wasn't nothing there. The leopard enclosure, people were going up to the viewing gallery, people were down on the ground, and all anybody said was, can't see anything in there. We went to see the bears, and there were no bears. The lions are the last thing on the sort of tour, if you will, on the last exhibit, the last animal to see. We didn't even bother going to have a look because at that point we'd seen that little that it was like, we're not going to traipse all the way down there to be like, oh look, there are no lions. Painted dogs, no, they were nowhere to be seen. So, short version is, if you're going to go to Yorkshire Wildlife Park, maybe don't go on the hottest day on record. It was good. There was a park. The park was cool. There was a zip line. There was some really high stuff, like the rope bridge thing, or like a tightrope or stuff. But it was really high up. Like for kids and stuff, I was a bit like, oh god, all you see is broken arms and broken legs. So I was like, oh, I don't like it. It was a good day. It was a hot day. A long way for little legs to walk, a long way for big legs to walk. It was hot. It was good, but yeah, I mean, you can't predict the weather. You can't really complain when it's like baking hot, but we do because we're British. But yeah, that was kind of that. So the other place we went, which now this was super cool. We went to Diggerland. I once listened to a podcast, a couple of podcasts that Bill Burr had done. One where he'd been talking about a restaurant that he really liked. Just talking, giving all the details, telling people the menu, telling people exactly where it was, and it was hidden down an alleyway or something. But it was this really good restaurant, best in town. All of this. A few months later, he was telling people about a pizza place he'd been to, a pizza joint that he'd been to, and just completely was like, I went to this place, it was great. I'm not going to tell you where it is. I'm not going to give you any information about it. So basically, he was like, if you tell people that somewhere's great, they go there, and then next thing, where you've gone previously and just walked in and got what you wanted and walked out, great times. Next thing, you're queuing because everybody's heard how great it is. So I think he's just basically stopped telling people where things are. He'll be like, oh, it's this great place, it was great. That's the end of that conversation. So I'm a bit like, am I supposed to say where we went? So we went to Diggerland. Because Isabel is obsessed with diggers. So we went to Diggerland. So it was... Now then, it's Castleford. Was it Castleford? We went so many places over the day. There's Castleford, I think. Weird thing about it is that we'd set the sat nav and stuff, phone sat naved it just to make sure we were going to the right place. We started getting close. The sat nav was like, "Oh, you're getting close," and we were like, "We're definitely not," because we haven't seen any signs. We haven't seen the brown tourist sign. Nothing. We haven't seen anything. So we're like, "Sat nav, you're lying." I'm driving going, this doesn't feel right. We're on an industrial estate. What the hell's going on? There's nothing here. Now we've turned down a residential street. Now we're on a main road. What the hell? This was kind of the very end of the journey. And I'm like, I've set the sat nav wrong. Leanne goes on Google Maps on the phone. No, this is saying that we're nearly there as well. The first sign we saw for this place was the sign at the entrance. Really weird. It was okay, not overly well advertised. I'd never heard of it before, until Leanne was like, "Oh, Isabel loves diggers. There's a place called Diggerland." I was like, "What?" Yep, you can drive diggers, real size, full-blown diggers. You can go on all these different rides that are made out of diggers. There's all sorts of stuff there. It's wow. We have to go. So we went. Missed the turning because I was like, well, I presume that sign is just advertising that we're near. Turned out, no, that was the entrance. Went up, did a U-E, came back, pulled in. Drove up and parked, and it's okay, we're here. We must be here quite early because the car park was a quarter full, not even that. It's okay. Went in, there was no queue. Okay, walked in, paid the lady, walked on through, and we were there. Walked out. again, one of those that is like, I don't want to reveal too many secrets because I'm going to keep this one under my hat. Diggerland, so cool, such a cool place. So as the day went on, again, now this was the Thursday of the hottest week. This was officially the hottest day on record. I think it was like 33 degrees when we were out there. There's no cover, but there is like an indoor, you can go and have something to eat and stuff. Just such a cool place. Like the first thing you can see is like a digger, but it's a ride and you sit in like a giant scoop, and it spins round. I think it was called the Spinner, and that was fun. There's like height restrictions, so the way they do it is you've got to be a certain height to go on things, so you can go on accompanied by an adult, or you're a certain height to drive stuff, which was fun because one child was tall enough to go on stuff themselves, and the other one was tall enough to go on stuff with me, and the other one was in the pushchair. So it's like, okay, that's super helpful because that means we can sort of divide and conquer. I don't think Leanne went on much, but there was so many cool things. So there was like, the first thing we went on was a digger. And it's like a row of diggers, and you dig up dirt. You dig big holes in the ground. So I got to go on that twice. So that was like a row of like maybe 8 diggers. You walk down again, another row of like 8 diggers that are smaller. So we thought about going on that. There was like what we kept sort of referring to as like a train, which was just a big, what we referred to as like a dump truck, like a one-man dump truck, the one with a big scoop on the front that would sort of dump rubble, I guess. Then behind that there was like a carriage that had probably 10 seats in it, so sort of for adults. And then behind that there was like, like the little, where they've taken a barrel and cut it in half and then put wheels on it so kids can like pretend to drive, like a little steering wheel. There was like 4 of those. So the girls could go in the little barrels, go in the adult bit, and that sort of went through the woods. Nice thing about that was because it went through the woods, it was cool. It was a good few degrees cooler in there. And there's like stuff in the woods, dinosaurs and things to look at. So that was that. There was like one that was basically a cherry picker that took you about 50 foot in the air. Got a super cool panoramic picture from being all the way up there. I'll probably attach that to this. There was a thing where you could go in a 4x4 and that sort of shot round the woods as well. Thing where you could go on a JCB. There was these electric go-karts that were built in a way that like a child could sit in them and then an adult could sit like on the back. So basically the adult drives and the child sits between the legs, but it was built in such a way. They were fun, went on those loads of times. Like again, these like dump trucks on like what I would call like a motocross circuit that you just drive them. There was hook a duck, but with you use the arm from a digger. There was bowling, again, use the arm from a digger. There was like electric cars, like the kids can drive around on. There was like another one that was diggers that you could drive. A different one to the other one. So, there was like a merry-go-round where all the seats were scoops from a digger, and it was a digger that span it round. All these like cars and things to drive. Just loads of stuff. And like I say, one child was the perfect height to go on with me. The other child was the perfect height to drive themselves. And we just kept going on all this stuff. Few things. One, obviously every single one of these rides or these things that you drive or any of those was manned by someone. Either they gave you instructions on how to control the digger arm or how to control the dump truck you were driving or whatever. Or in the case of the JCB, that just had seats at the back. You climbed in, you sat, they drove it. Every single one of them had a person manning them. A lot of not teenagers, but like young adults, I suppose. But I don't know, between like 16 and 20. Some maybe a bit older, some sort of around that age. Every single one of them, super polite. They called me sir. They'd have a conversation with you. When you got off stuff, they wish you a nice day. Hope you have a nice day. Hope you enjoyed yourself. That sort of stuff. Really polite, really helpful, really patient, really good. I couldn't speak highly enough of the people that worked there. And the other thing was, I felt really sorry for them. They will have, because they just stood out in the open. There was no shade, nothing for them to hide under. They will have been baking. Every single one of them had a water bottle, which was good, but some of them I felt so sorry. But they were also polite. One of the guys, the guy that took us on the round in the 4x4, he was saying about how if you do like certain things, if you get like certain chocolate wrappers, you can get free tickets for that place. He was like, oh, tell everybody because people don't know and it's a good way to save money so you can come and all this. Weirdest thing was, there was nobody there. This massive place with all of this really cool stuff that you could go on. We'd read on the website that you could be waiting up to like 40 minutes to an hour to go on things. There was nobody there. We worked out that in the entire day, there was probably 15 families there. By the afternoon, there was basically no one. There was us and like a couple of families, 3 or 4 families wandering around the place. So I'm like, what the hell's going on? Is it just because it's the hottest day? Is it because we couldn't work out whether the place had been closed the day before because the website said it was, but we were looking in the evening, so we didn't know whether it was just like an evening thing where it was saying we're closed now. It's only open 10 till 5, I think. I think they do like a night cinema in the car park there, so I don't know. But it was super quiet. Got to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Could be later than that. And we went on the land train thing for what I think was probably the 3rd time. And the lady that was driving it, the girl that was driving it, young woman that was driving it, was like, oh, you having a good time? I was like, yeah, good day. Oh, you been enjoying yourself? Yeah. Oh, it's quiet today. I was like, yeah, we were saying this. Just can't believe how cool this place is, but how quiet it is. She was like, the schools round here don't break up this. They haven't broken up. They break up tomorrow. So we went the day before the schools in the area broke up. And I was like, well, we hit that one right, didn't we? And she was saying basically the weekend, and from that point on, the place will be absolutely rammed. One thing to bear in mind, and when you think about it, it's probably not that big a deal. It's not cheap. There was 5 of us, and we only paid for 3 of us because of like height restrictions and stuff. And it was expensive. But all the stuff you get to do while you're there, I would certainly say well worth the money. Went on the spinny round thing, It takes you like 30 feet in the air and then it spins you around like sat on a scoop, and then it tilts at certain points and it shoots up and down and drops you down and stuff. Went on that straight after lunch. Probably wasn't a good idea. I felt a little queasy coming off that. Went on it before we left. The second time was loads better. I'd even said probably shouldn't go on that straight after lunch, and then went on it. It's like, what? Super cool place, super fun day out. If you've got kids and they like diggers, then get them there. Try and find out a quiet day. I'd hate to have gone and had to have queued for stuff. I think we're really lucky. So that's unfortunate if you're gonna hear this and go in the summer holidays. Can't imagine I hear this before the end of the summer holidays. Super good day out, super fun, awesome place. I mean, nothing short of genius. I was reading a thing that was saying like, guy that owned the place, I think he was in construction and basically took a certain number of the construction vehicles and made this place. Really good, fun place. So that was that. There was other stuff we did, but I wanted to mention these places because they're cool. So, bought a game last week. So ages ago, I had Watch Dogs 2 when it first came out. Thoroughly enjoyed the first Watch Dogs game. Really enjoyed that. Played it many times from start to finish. Still own it on the PlayStation 4. Just a really enjoyable game. Pretty sure that was one that was on the other generation that then got upgraded to the PS4. Still own it now. Love it. Great game. I'd happily play that today. Got Watch Dogs 2 when it came out. Played it. Really didn't like it. Really didn't like it. It's very different to the first one. The first one's like really gritty and the storyline's really good. The gameplay's great. A lot of people had a lot of complaints about it, but I never saw what they were complaining about. I just thought it was a great game. Watch Dogs 2, on the other hand, the characters are all really cliche. I described the game as a hot mess. Like the way you do the stuff that you could do in the first one's all wrong. The controls aren't great. So, as it was, and something that I rarely do, I traded it in with the, I'm probably not going to play this again. So that'll be a couple of years ago, maybe. I don't know how long it's been out. Could be a year ago, could be a couple of years. It was not long after it came out. Recently, and when I say recently, I say the last 6 months, I was like, maybe I was too harsh on that game. Maybe I didn't give it enough of a chance. Maybe I should have played it again. Maybe if I see that it's cheap somewhere, I'll pick it up. Put a copy of it in my basket, Amazon basket. It was a little bit expensive for a game that I remember not overly liking. So it's sat there for months. We were in town one day last week. Excuse me, that must sound awful. In town one day last week, popped in CEX because I've had this voucher for CEX for months. Traded in like loads of Blu-rays and DVDs and games and stuff. I had this massive voucher that I've been chipping away at for a while. Got some movies for the kids, like animated movies and stuff, and they had Watch Dogs. So I was like, cool, get Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs 2, sorry. Bought it, came back, installed it, and this was at the point in time I still had no internet, so I couldn't do any of the updates. I have since done the updates, and I've been playing Watch Dogs 2. And what I can say at this point in time is No, I hadn't remembered that game incorrectly. It's a hot mess, that game. I honestly do not know what they were aiming for. I know it's one of those things that it's good to try something different if you've done a certain thing and it's gone over quite well. There's two ways to do a sequel. One, you make the exact same thing again with some tweaks and some slightly better stuff. Two, you do it completely different. They decided to go down the completely different route, which wasn't the right idea. More often than not, the best way for some games is just do the same again. Just give us a better version of it. So I've been playing that, and it's just, for want of a better way of putting it, it's awful. Like, the gameplay's terrible. The characters are awful. They're just, graphically, like the cutscenes and stuff are really good, but you have to sit through the characters that they're giving you, and the characters are terrible. And it's like, okay, cool, I have to sit through this cutscene. Great. Oh, I have to play this. Like, some of the missions you do, it's like, oh, you got to get into this building, but there's alarms here, and there's tripwires here, and there's guards here, there, and everywhere. It's like, yeah, cool. Do you know what that means? There's no real way of doing it. You just have to fudge your way through the mission. And as always, if you get seen or you get killed or if you whatever, it's always start from the beginning of the mission. It's just a mess of a game. There's been points in time where I'm like, oh, I've got like an hour before I do whatever. Oh, I'll put that on. And then I put it on and I play it, and then I turn it off and I'm like, that truly was a waste of an hour. There's been points where I'm like, oh, I've got an hour to kill. I could put Watch Dogs 2 on, or I could not. And I've chosen not to. It's a mess of a game. And I know at this point in time I'm not giving a review of a game because this game's been out for a long time. It's like me trying to review the Rory McIlroy game when I worked out it was based in 2015. I'm not reviewing it, I'm just saying this is what I've been playing recently. And it's, what a mess that game is. They're making another one, can't think what it's called, but it's another Watch Dogs game, and I'm like, Jesus, what's this going to be like? I did get another game, which I haven't played, because I'm trying to work out what to do. I had a conversation with JK today where I was like, I don't know what to do about that game. There was another game that I really fancied. I had the Game Pass thing for the Xbox Live Game Pass or whatever the hell it is, where you can download free games. And one of the times I had it was purely because Forza Horizon 4 was coming out and you got it for free on there. So I got it, downloaded the game, played it from start to finish, and that was that. The one thing that the Forza Horizon games really do need is either a new game plus or a way to just start from the beginning. I know that you can like delete your save and stuff, but it'd be really nice to be able to play all the missions again, but with all the cars that you've collected. So I'm umming and ahhing whether to delete the save and just start from scratch. But I don't want to lose all my cars. I've got all the Ken Block ones. I've got all the Hoonigan cars. So I've got the Hoonie truck, the Hoonicorn, the Ford Fiesta, all of that. I've got some really cool cars. I don't really want to start again, but I want to play the game. So I'm a bit like, maybe I'll just start again and collect all the cars again. So that is games. Games covered off. That's what I've been playing for all its, for warts and all. I have watched some films. I watched Mile 22, which I saw a trailer for a while back. I was like, oh man, that trailer looks really cool. That film looks really cool. It's got a couple of people in that, like some people in that I don't mind, some people in I quite like. It's got Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg is one of those that I don't mind him. I'll happily watch something with him in. He's done some quite good films. He's done some hit and miss stuff. So I don't mind watching him in stuff. There were some random people in it. Ronda Rousey's in it. A woman that all I remember is that she's been in The Walking Dead. John Malkovich is in it. Really, really weird casting for John Malkovich to be in it, but he was. So that's that. The other main person in it is the main guy from The Raid. Now I'm a massive fan of The Raid. I watched The Raid recently, and The Raid 2. The Raid 2 isn't quite as good as The Raid. Because The Raid is fantastic. And basically, Mile 22 is if you took the film SWAT and you took The Raid and smashed those two together, you would end up with Mile 22. Very brief overview. Like a special ops team, like a ghosts team, has to get a guy from the centre of a town to an airfield to get him out of the country because he wants to go to America. And that's that. There is there seems to be a Russian element, but then there's the native people of the country that they're in who are trying to stop them. And they warn them to start with, hand over that guy, we want him, and they're like, no, we're not going to do that. So they're sort of chased through the streets. There's a lot of car chases with motorbikes and stuff, and a lot of shooty bang bang. I put it on, started watching it. I watched it over 2 or 3 days. I'll come to that in a minute. And thoroughly enjoyed it. Watched the first 20 minutes, half an hour of it, and was like, this film's good so far. Next day I watched another 40 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour or whatever. Again, really enjoyable. And then the next day I finished it off. It was good film. Thoroughly recommend it. If you like a good action film, if you like some car chases and shooting with martial arts, it's probably the film for you. Tried to recommend it to James Panas. He was like, please, I've already seen it. I was like, oh. One of those that when I saw the trailer, I really wanted to see it, and that put me off because I was like, oh man, that looks really good, so it's probably going to be rubbish. Oh, that trailer looks really good, man, so it's probably going to be rubbish. And in the end, convinced myself that it was just going to be a bad film and didn't bother with it. Luckily, it popped up on Netflix, so it's not cost me anything other than a Netflix subscription, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So that is a recommendation for this week. Mile 22. If you like that sort of thing, give that a whirl. So I finished watching Mile 22 a few days ago. Needed something else to put on. So I was scrolling through Netflix, which it can often be a bad thing. Scrolling. I was like, oh, there's that film that I was mildly interested in. I might come back. So I carry on scrolling. Scroll. No, nothing really there that I haven't seen or that I'd want to watch again. So I went back, looked through a couple of other categories. But I tend to find when you're scrolling through Netflix, if you see something that piques your interest, that's probably what you're going to end up watching. So I went back and I was like, you know what, I'm going to give this a go. The reason that I was interested in it is it's my kind of thing. It's based on a true story. It's a guy who was smuggling guns and drugs and all that sort of stuff. A rise and fall film. I do like those sorts of things. What put me off was it's got Tom Cruise in. I do not get on with Tom Cruise films. I really have to force myself to watch a film with Tom Cruise in. I used to be quite a bit of a fan of his stuff, probably 80s, 90s sort of area. For reasons that I probably shouldn't go into on the podcast. I really went off Tom Cruise. So I physically have to force myself to watch stuff with him in. The film was American made. Yeah, he's a smuggler. Well, he starts out as an airline pilot who's bored of being an airline pilot, but he's smuggling cigars at the time. CIA get involved. He's then starts smuggling things like guns, drugs, people. He's working for himself. He's working for the CIA. He's working for the government, and it just goes like that all the way through. Very stereotypical rise and fall film. There's a point where they've got that much money that they don't know what they physically can't hide it anymore. He's burying it in the back garden. The walls are lined with it, sort of thing. But obviously, anything like that has to come crashing down, which it does. Based on a true story. There's the fact that like Pablo Escobar's in it, sort of thing. It was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it. Once I sort of got past the Tom Cruise aspect, I was all right with it. It was a little prescriptive for one of those films, and it was very sort of, well, it's not going to last, and that those films are a certain type of film, and you kind of know which way they're going to go. But it was enjoyable. So if you like that sort of thing, give that a whirl. So that's that. So let's have a look. We've done the films. So I've written something on the list, and I'm a bit like, do I go into it? Don't I go into it? I've been vegetarian now for 30 years. And that goes, that everything that goes with it. I was a vegetarian in the 80s, so the era of the nut cutlet. So that's what people said to you. That was a running joke for about 15 years. Vegetarian food started getting better. Vegetarian was more acceptable. Restaurants started catering for vegetarians, and so on and so forth. What do you eat? What do you eat for your Christmas dinner? Exactly the same as what you eat, just without the meat. Because if you think about it, that's still a shitload of food. Things like that. You get used to it. It wasn't through choice. There wasn't really. We weren't given a choice to start with. We were given a choice later, and there was a sort of a blip. Me and my sister did go back to eating meat briefly, but in the end, it was like, actually no, let's just do the vegetarian thing. And I survive as a vegetarian. I'm not going to starve anytime soon. I'm not short of a meal or two. Vegetarian foods come on leaps and bounds, and it's widely accepted. So that is cool. Do you know what I don't do as a vegetarian, and have never done? I don't ram the fact that I'm a vegetarian down every single person's throat. I don't do it. There's no need. I haven't got the time to be bothered. Unlike the vegan community. So, I don't know if I mentioned the whole, I'd seen something in town one day where people were drawing on the pavements in town with pavement chalk. It's like, oh, what the hell's this? Is it some kind of arty thing? No. Vegans talking about vegans being vegan. It's like, cool. That's great. Loads of guilt everywhere. It's like, that's wonderful. talking to a good friend of mine. He was telling me that he knows somebody who has had not one, but 2 vegan tattoos. And I don't mean tattoos that are vegan friendly. I mean like vegan symbols tattooed on their body. In my experience, most vegans, and this is my experience, so don't lynch me, but in my experience, I find vegans to be quite hypocritical. I once had an interaction with a vegan who demanded that I cook vegan food. I was like, well, there's like 50 people here, 35 of them are meat eaters, 10 of them are vegetarian, 5 of them are vegans. So I'm catering for the meat eaters because there's a lot more of them. I'm also cooking the vegetarian food, and once we got further along, I will cook the vegan stuff. This was completely unacceptable, and how dare I? Couldn't possibly imagine eating anything but the vegan food. This just went on non-stop, until 10 minutes later, when they're chowing down on a vegetarian sausage with the phrase, "I just couldn't wait." All right, okay. There's the thing about sugar. If you've got any vegan friends and they start harping on about stuff, ask them if they've had any sugar recently. And if they're like, yeah, they're like, all right, okay, you do know that sugar isn't vegan, because sugar is naturally clear. So is what I'm told. Naturally, it's clear. Sugar is made white using animal bone. So bear that one in mind for all your vegan friends. One of my favourites was Luke told me that he'd seen something that was like a morning TV show. Woman on national television saying she's a vegan. And if during the week she's really good, like a really good vegan, at the weekend she goes to McDonald's. Yeah. That is my experience of vegans. I generally find they're quite hypocritical. On the flip side, I know Kevin Smith's gone vegan after the heart attack, and obviously it's had a massive impact. I think he's lost something like 60 pounds. Cool, great, wonderful. He harps on about being a vegan almost non-stop, because that's another thing. Joe Rogan's joke about nobody's an accidental vegan. You've never met a vegan who hasn't told you that they're a vegan in the first few seconds of meeting them. True story. The reason that joke is funny is because of how true it is. I find the whole thing to be so completely unnecessary. If you want to do something, if you want to be a vegan, be a vegan. If you want to be a Christian, be a Christian. If you want to be a flat earther, a person who wears a tinfoil hat, if you want to be something, be that. If that's who you are and that's what you believe in, and that is you, then be that. Do that. Power to you. I do things. Like I say, I'm a vegetarian. 30 years deep. OG vegetarian. I like computer games. I like movies. I like lifting weights. NFL. Season's nearly back. Pre-season game today. First game of the season. Well, pre-season. These are the things I like. Podcasting. I love podcasts. I do a podcast. I love podcasts. Do you know what I don't do with all of that? I don't ram it down someone's throat. I don't immediately meet someone and say, I like computer games. Do you like NFL? I like NFL. Do you like movies? Have you seen this movie? I used to, admittedly, when I was younger. I was a little bit obsessed with stuff. And worked on the principle everyone else should be. And that's kind of it. The vegan movement strikes me as like a child that's obsessed with something. So anyway, the reason I bring this up, I think it's getting a little bit out of hand, and here's what I mean. Driving along the road the other day, I'm in the car, Leon's in the car, baby's in the back. Driving. Car in front. Driving. Leon's like, is it me? Or does that car say vegan? I'm like, what? It's like that number plate in front. Is it vegan? Like, what are you on about? Now then, I'm going to get this wrong because I tried to explain this to somebody the other day, and because I can't spell, I got it wrong. But anyway, the number plate was, what was it? VEGI space ANN. Was it that? Whatever it was. When you looked at it, you could take it to just be a normal number plate. But if you looked at it in a certain way, the number plate spelt vegan. I am aware there's no I in vegan. I'm like, what the actual hell is going on right now? I was like, you're going to have to excuse me a minute because I need to speed up and ram this person off the road. Again, we're taking things too far here, people. I didn't run out when I got a car and learned to drive and got myself a vegetarian number plate. You know why? Because I wouldn't do that. Nobody would do that. So that was that. Walking through town the other day. There's a guy and a girl coming towards me. I'm like, oh, that t-shirt that guy's got on, like really interesting design. It's like all these shapes on the front. Like it's a bit sort of, because the shapes were just like triangle, circle, like square, like, and I'm like, you know, is it trying to display something? Is it a design of some kind? Is it, you know, what is it? Got a bit closer. I was like, oh, you know, it's quite striking. There's a lot of colours. The shapes are different colours. All that. Got a bit closer. I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. Because inside these triangles and circles and squares and different shapes were the letters vegan. Really? You needed that? You needed that situation? You want to be a vegan? Be a vegan. Stop ramming it down everybody's throat. Stop going on about it. Give it a rest. Leave it alone. But be a vegan. Like, I will leave this conversation and go off and continue being a vegetarian and telling almost nobody about it. Do that. Be that. There's vegan restaurants all over the place. I don't have an issue with that. I was looking in the window of a vegan restaurant the other day, looking at some of the food. I'm doing a particular diet at the moment. I'm doing a no carbs diet, which weirdly, only realised last night is like a keto thing. But this is like week 3. I don't know whether that's why I'm tired or whether that's the lack of sleep. Who knows? I'm doing that. I'll say to the odd person, you know, right, we're off to Pizza Hut for lunch. I'm probably not going to eat anything. I'll just have a drink. Why aren't you eating stuff? Oh, because we're off to Pizza Hut and I'm not eating carbs at the moment. Okay, cool. End of conversation. Things like that, I think, are acceptable because that's like day-to-day stuff. Just leave it alone. Just be a vegan. Don't force feed everyone your veganism. A little bit ranty. I'm trying not to rant as much. Obviously, I've done well. But let me offset it with this little ditty. last Friday, something that me and I've done it on the podcast. I had a conversation with Leanne's mum on the podcast a long time ago. Had a conversation with my eldest. Was about the fact that I was growing my hair for no particular reason. Anybody who knows me and has known me for a while knows that a few years ago I had dreadlocks. Those dreadlocks were long. Basically came down to sort of the crack of my arse. They were like my lower back. They were long. Got to the point where I was like, yeah, I think I've kind of done this now. I had an undercut and dreadlocks on the top of my head. Cut them off, shaved my head. My head was like really, you could see where the dreadlocks had been for quite a while. So I was like, right, I'll grow my hair out a bit. Grew my hair out a little bit, shaved it to start with, and then grew it out a bit. And then it grew and grew and grew, got to the point where I needed to do something with it, have a haircut sort of thing. And my natural go-to was an undercut. So I undercut it, gelled the top, did that for a while. Then it got to the point where it was quite long, started tying it back, got to the point that it was long enough that I didn't have to gel it to tie it back, and so on and so forth. But I'd said, do you know something? It doesn't take much to grow hair. I can do it with my eyes closed. Maybe I can do something useful. There's not a lot I can do these days that are useful. So maybe this is something that I can do. So how about this? I'll grow it until it's a certain length, until it's long enough to cut it off and to send it to one of these places that makes wigs for children who have got cancer, or for people who need wigs. I think in these situations they make wigs out of actual hair rather than synthetic. It looks more realistic, so on and so forth. I was like, that's something I can do. I can do that. It's not a massive amount of effort to do. I have to maintain the hair, and that's about it. So that was that. Set in stone, on a podcast, in the record books, done, out in the world. Had a little bit of feedback. People were like, oh, I think that's a really cool thing you're doing. I think this was when it was sort of just able to tie it back, sort of thing. And then, as things do, a year passes. One point we measured the hair because we had the conversation, and I had the conversation with my eldest. She said that somebody in her class had done the same thing. I was like, oh, that's really cool. I was like, tell you what, when it comes to the time, how about you cut it off? She was like, all right. Got to the point recently where we measured it and it was way over the length that it needed to be. Also got to the point recently that my hair had got to a certain length that it was annoying. I found myself having to plait it to keep it sort of, rather than just being this massive bushy thing on the back of my head. I started plaiting it just to keep it a bit tidier. It was annoying, like I turned my head and it would like hit the back of my neck. So short version was, it was time to cut it off. So last Friday, I've been talking about it all week. Oh, just need time. So I was like, right, let's do it on Friday. So made sure it was tied back, made sure it was clean and dry and all those things. Tied it back, put a load of hair ties in it to keep it together. Gave my eldest the scissors and she cut the hair off. So that is that. It turns out, I'm touching it now, turns out that there was still enough left of the top and the front and stuff to still tie it back in a tiny, tiny little top knotty thing. I've got some tufts at the back, which, if I'm honest, they don't look great, so I don't know whether to get rid of them. And basically, I'm just starting again. I will just grow more hair, and I'll get it to a certain length, and I'll cut it off again. And I'll do this for as long as it's not white, which as the days go by, more and more of those creep in. So I needed a form. So I'm sending it to the Little Princess Trust. They are a charity that accept hair, make wigs, give it to people who need wigs. So cool. You fill in a form. You put your hair in a bag. You put the bag and the form in a padded envelope. Send it to the people. So I'm going to do that. Reason I haven't done it is that I went to print the form and the printer wouldn't work. Came down, I'd been upstairs one day and I'd heard this big bang downstairs, which when you own 2 cats is basically a daily occurrence. And it's just like, what now? Went downstairs, never found what it was. There was no broken dishes, there was nothing that had fallen over, nothing on the floor that I could see. I was like, whatever. A few days later, I was like, what's going on with the printer? And all the front of the printer was open. And I'm like, that's what that noise was the other day. Front of the printer's hanging open, there's claw marks all over it. There was actually some paper on top of the printer that got claw marks all the way through it. Wonderful. That's great, that is. Came to use the printer on Sunday, I think it was. Yeah, no dice. And I'm the kind of person, like, if I've got something that's designed to do a job, like a printer or a TV or something like that, and that item can't do its job, I'm very like, what is the point to you? And I spent hours trying to get the printer to print and it wouldn't print. And I looked up on the internet and downloaded drivers and I did all sorts of stuff. Ultimately, the printer is now a very large paperweight. Add it to the long list of things that the cats have broken. Was super annoyed. Because I'm like, I just want to print this form so I can fill it in and send my hair to the people that I'm sending my hair to. And that wasn't happening. So, yeah, that was awesome. I was really happy about that. But hey, I've done the hard bit. I'm just going to send the hair when I can sort the form out. I'll have to ask somebody to print it for me, I guess, and then send it off. And then apparently you get a certificate. It's not why I did it, but you know, it's nice that they sort of acknowledge it. I might put the certificate up somewhere, you know, something I did. And I mean, my point is, like I said, it wasn't a difficult thing for me to do. Sometimes it was a bit of a pain to maintain it, but you know, small things. And if it helps somebody, you know, hopefully the hair's good quality. If it helps someone, then cool. I hope it does. So that is that for the podcast. Obviously, I know what you guys are waiting for, and I'm not going to disappoint you. I'm going to tell you whether I've been to the gym or not. So it's Thursday today. I imagine when I recorded the last one of these, I'll have been saying, I'm going to do this and then go to the gym. I can confirm Monday when I was recording the other one of these, I did go to the gym. Did some light weights and did some running. I was up to sort of 45 minutes at that point in time on the treadmill, and just sort of 20 minutes of light weights. So that was Monday. Tuesday, surprise podcast, because I thought we were doing it on Wednesday. Football season's kicking off today. No, not today, tomorrow, which is Friday. So we did a pre-season podcast. So it's like, right, podcast, and all of that entails probably wipes out my chances of going to the gym, which was fine. I was going to have a rest day on Wednesday. No. Yes, because I thought the podcast was supposed to be on Wednesday, so I was going to have a rest day then. I had a rest day on Tuesday. So Wednesday came around and I went to the gym. And I did... So that was yesterday. So I did something slightly different. I did more running, less walking, stuff like that. I did some light weights with a little bit of heavy weight at the end. I'm absolutely itching to get back to proper weight training, but I can't let myself just go down that route before I've sorted some of this weight out and got my running back. So I'm sticking with the running, just doing a little bit of light weights to keep my hand in. That was last night. I'm gonna go to the gym this evening. Same again, a little bit of light weights, and then I will do running again. Try and get a better time, more distance, as is what I've been doing recently. What day is that? So that's Thursday. My intention is to go tomorrow. I might have a rest day Saturday, because Sunday might be a busy one. I'll update you with that on Monday. See how that one goes. So there. For all my time of not going to the gym, I think it was like 16 weeks I didn't go. And as is everything that goes hand in hand with that, put on a load of weight in that time. Wasn't eating overly healthy. Now, got rid of all the crap food. Still doing the no carbs thing. It's difficult but not impossible. I'm not sure if it's really working for me. I don't think I've seen any weight change. Although my jeans keep falling down, which is a weird issue to have. Good on one hand, bad on another, sort of thing. So I think I was saying to Lan, I was like, let's get to the end of the week and then sort of assess. I think she's well and truly into it, so good for her. She's lost loads of weight, so you got to go with what works. After this weekend, I'm hoping to sort of change my training a little bit. I just need to get through this weekend. So yeah, gym tonight, gym tomorrow, rest Saturday, busy day Sunday, and then Monday we might assess where we're going from there. So until then, I'm going to say bye-bye to you people, and I'll update you next week with how everything's gone. Thanks for listening, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye. So there you go then, what do you think to that? Another week gone, another podcast done, another week closer to whatever it is you're looking forward to. YouTube watchers, make sure you're YouTube subscribers, click for notifications, give us likes and shares and comments and things like that. Everybody jump over to thecookiecast.com, send us some social media love, send us an email, send us just general love in all forms. So there we go, that's it for this week, and until next week, I'll say bye, and I'll see you then. Bye.